Hello beautiful, and thank you for clicking on today's video. Whether you already have an established capsule wardrobe or you're just trying to clean out your closet for the next coming season, sometimes clearing out our closet can present us with a lot of questions and roadblocks. So today I hope to alleviate some of that mental guesswork for you and share with you some of my best closet clean out tips. Number one is to have a to be determined bin. I think a lot of us when decluttering, we end up with a huge pile of maybes and a lot of association with those maybes, leaning more towards the side of keeping them. And what I would recommend, instead of just keeping everything that lands in your maybe pile that you're not too sure about, I would put them in a box, put a date on the box anywhere from 3 to 6 to 12 months in advance, and put the box in your closet so that these items are still accessible in case that maybe or that someday ever does come due. But if you end up going a certain amount of time, like I said, whether it's 3, 6, or 12 months, without pulling items out of that box, you can then safely know that they're not items that you actually needed or wanted, kick them out of your maybe pile and put them in a donate pile much, much easier. I think this is easy for 2 reasons. One, you don't have to have as much decision fatigue in the moment of actually doing your big declutter. And 2, it's kind of like a mental safety net for the items that you're unsure about. So this is my biggest tip, is to have a to be determined bin. And I would recommend that your bin be opaque so that you can't actually see what's in it, so you're not just seeing it and saying, oh, I need that. When you actually go into the bin, searching for something specific, then you know it's something worth keeping. Number 2 on the list is to be brutally honest with your lifestyle. And actually, this is one that I struggle with a bit myself. Your lifestyle is made up of a lot of things. The activities you like to do, the people you like to associate with, the climate that you live in, the job that you keep. All of these things are gonna be what you need to focus on when considering the clothes that you need to keep in your wardrobe and the wardrobe that you need to have. If you are somebody who works as like a daycare provider, or you work as a dog walker or something like that, you probably don't have a lot of need in your closet for high heels or fancy dresses or black tie event type clothing, because that's simply not the lifestyle that you're currently living. I would say it's okay to keep a couple of these things for like if the occasion happens to come up, but you don't need 5 black tie dresses for a black tie event that comes due once every decade or so. I personally struggle with this a little bit myself, mostly due to the location that I live in. My general style tends to lean a little bit more dressed up than the average American event tends to lend to. So I find myself a lot of times at these events feeling just a little bit overdressed and opting usually for things that are a little bit more casual, even though they're not necessarily my preference. So I've had to split the difference between my preferred style, which is tending to be a little bit more dressed up, more similar to like European fashion, and the lifestyle that I live in the United States, going to much more casual events. So because I do enjoy dressing up more, but I also don't really like to stick out too much in a crowd, I've had to split the difference in my closet and have a little bit of both mixing and matching. And you're probably gonna have to do a little bit of that soul searching in your closet too with, like I said, the lifestyle that you live. Number 3 is a little bit controversial, and I think you could go either way with it. And I have decluttered both ways before. And I really think that dumping all of your clothing from your dresser, from your closet, from wherever else you keep your clothing, into one finite space to declutter it all at once really is very helpful. I've done it where I just sort of go through my closet and I just sort of blast through and grab out the things that I know are definitely things I need to get rid of. But I think when you have it all in one place, including like lounge clothes and gym clothes and PJs and winter clothes and summer clothes and clothes for costuming if you're a costumer, I think having it all in one place really gives you a good idea of the volume that you have, which in itself can be motivating to you when you're trying to cut through the clutter and get to that more ideal wardrobe that you're seeking with doing a closet declutter. So you can go either way on this, but I would generally recommend, if you have the time, space, and energy, dumping it all out into one space, like on your bed, so that you're kind of forced to do it before you have to go to sleep that day. That way you're really getting an idea of the volume and inventory that you have, and it's more motivating to cut through it even more so. I think it's also sort of satisfactory, that's not the right word, but that's the word I'm going with for lack of a better one at this time, when you can see your keep pile, your maybe pile, and your donate pile, when you see the mountain that it was and then the small mountains that it became, I think that's a gratifying, that's the word I was looking for, that's a very gratifying feeling at the end of the declutter that I think you can only really get when you dump it all into one place. So that's what I would recommend if you have the time, space, and energy to do so. Next on the list is for my eco-conscious people, and even those who aren't eco-conscious but maybe want to feel less guilt with getting rid of such a large volume of clothing. I would say sell, donate, and recycle what you can. I've made a video here in the past about where to donate and recycle difficult to donate and recycle items, including underwear, socks, tights, towels, bras, and I can leave that linked down below. But there's a lot of clothing items that I think aren't really good enough to end up at a thrift store, and we don't really know what to do with them. So then we hold on to them because there's this associated guilt with essentially throwing something away that you could still potentially use. So I think finding places for all of this to go outside of our home can help a lot. So that was kind of more on the vein of like recycling. Donating is also a great option, knowing that it's gonna hit a thrift store and somebody like me who loves thrifting is gonna find it, use it, and love it more than you ever did sitting in your closet. That's another great place for your decluttered items to land to make you feel a bit better about getting rid of them, especially if you did spend a decent amount of money on them. And also number 3 is to sell your items if you can. Sometimes when there's an expensive item sitting in our closet that we're not wearing, it can stir up feelings of guilt. So then we continue to keep the item because we spent money on it. So why would I get rid of it? Why would I just donate it because I spent so and so dollars? I need to keep it. But the reality is, if you're not wearing it and you're not using it, that money is already gone, and all it's doing sitting in your closet is giving you guilt every time you look at it and don't decide to wear it. So in those instances, what can sometimes be the best option is to try and sell it and make some of that money back. That way you're kind of getting rid of the item, you know it's going to a good home, you're making a little bit of income on it, and by the time that that item is out of your house, so is the guilt. So those are kind of the 3 avenues that I like to think about when trying to declutter, but this all sort of falls under the umbrella of like finding a home for the items that are exiting your home. This isn't something that I think everybody struggles with, but I do think a lot of us struggle with the fact that once we own something, it feels like it's ours, and it's more difficult to get rid of it just knowing that it's gonna end up wherever. So I think having a place for these things to land, whether it's donated, sold, or recycled, feels a bit better, and it helps motivation-wise to actually get rid of these items that we know need to be gotten rid of out of our house. Before we move on to the next one, I just wanted to thank you if you are still watching this video and still pulling value from it. If you are, please consider giving this video a like, subscribing if you're not already, and leaving a comment down below. Right now, YouTube as an algorithm is prioritizing things like likes and comments in order to push videos out to more people. Not only would this help my channel and my mission greatly, but it would help this video reach other people on YouTube that are searching for things and help with decluttering their closet. So please do all of that down below, and like I said, consider subscribing if you're not already. And with all of that being said, let's move on to the next one. Next on the list is very similar to number 2 with realizing the lifestyle you live versus the clothing that you have, and that is to check your fantasy self. If you've never heard the concept of fantasy self, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It is the self that you envision yourself to be, or maybe who you used to be. In my life, the perfect example is when I used to work in corporate America. I had a lot of slacks, a lot of cashmere sweaters, a lot of silk blouses, a lot of high heels, and the list goes on. Now I work from home, I live a much more casual lifestyle, and those clothing items were no longer needed in my closet. But for a very, very long time, I was holding on to them because I had this idea that I needed them because of the person who I used to be and the job that I used to work. So this vision of myself was a fantasy and a fallacy at this current stage in my life. And this can be sort of applicable to anything, whether you have clothes for a size that you are no longer, or maybe they're too big because you're thinking that you're going to gain weight in the future. I would say, unless you're somebody who frequently fluctuates weight, that is a fantasy self item. Let's say you've changed careers, like myself, and you've been in the career that you are now for a little while. You no longer need that safety net of the old business clothing. It is considered a fantasy self. Maybe you're somebody where you have a fantasy that you're going to become a gym rat in the next year, and you have all of these workout clothes from all these designer brands like Lululemon, but you've never actually stepped foot in a gym, and you don't actually have a gym membership, and you don't wear leggings anywhere outside of the gym like some of the yoga moms do. All of these things can be sort of quantified to fantasy self. So in addition to number 2, understanding your lifestyle and kind of the clothing that you need to exist in your lifestyle, it's also understanding what is your fantasy self and giving those clothes away, like I said, to a thrift store, so somebody who actually lives that life can enjoy those clothes more than you are having them just beautifully sit in your closet. And the last one on my list I touched on just a little bit earlier, but I wanted to reiterate. If you are keeping something simply because it was expensive and you are not using it, you are playing yourself. The only thing that's doing is taking up precious real estate in your mind and in your house. That money is already spent. That item sitting in your closet is not going to make that money come back. It's not going to make you want to wear that item anymore. All it's doing is taking up space and making you feel guilty every time you see it hanging in your closet. So I would say try and sell it. And if you can't, honestly, get rid of it and just consider it like a financial lesson learned. I think overall, even of the expensive things that I've not been able to sell and I've had to just declutter, my mental space is clearer for that, and I think that alone is worth the money that I spent, especially because I learned to not make those type of purchases again. So, I really just get rid of them, And that is going to be it for my list of tips. If you have any other tips that you would like to leave for me or anybody else who might be watching this video, please leave them in the description box, or not the description box, please leave them in the comments down below. Like I said earlier, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already. Please leave this emoji in the comments if you are watching all the way to the end to let me know that you have a fabulous attention span. Welcome to the club. And with all of that being said, I'll see you in a couple days with another video.